Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. Before we get into today's show with Martin Scheel, I wanted to share, and you'll see this, those of you who read Cross Country Magazine, my article about this, but just got back from the Swiss World Cup, and I have a story to share in a sense of what not to do when you're under a lot of stress. It's very important to know when to stand down, to pick the right days. If you don't, then things can go sideways. Just talking about the risks of flying while really distracted. The Swiss World Cup, we had one early task the first day, and then had 3 days of rain. Weren't able to fly, and then had a short task, and then two glorious tasks the last 2 days of the comp. And I had bombed out the first day, so that was kind of my drop. So I needed to put together with the remaining days and fly pretty well. The second test I did pretty well, and the third test did better, and I was kind of crawling back and excited about the last day. The conditions were perfect. The forecast was epic. We were going to have another amazing task in that incredible arena. And then as night fell, the night before the last task, I got a horrible phone call from friends of mine back home that one of my best friends, dear friend, and my main backcountry ski partner over the last decade, Terry O'Connor, was actually on the show about the COVID pandemic a few years back, and he was caught in an avalanche. Terry did not make it. Anyway, you can imagine it was a rough night, and woke up, and I got a couple hours sleep, and woke up in the morning, and my roommates there were, gave me a big hug, and it was kind of one of those, you don't believe it's happened, you can't process it. We're, as humans, not very good at dealing with someone leaving too soon, and it was pretty obvious that I shouldn't fly, and it doesn't matter, the results. And so, but I kept justifying, well, I should probably go up the hill. It's such a beautiful day. Maybe I'll take one last flight and take Terry with me. Anyway, I justified it in all kinds of reasons that, I'm good at this, and I can fly distracted, and I might as well just. Anyway, I justified it by a number of different, I'll fly. If it doesn't feel good, I'll land. And then I went up the hill, and I got my stuff together, and I flew, and it was awful, and just a miserable experience. But I kept thinking, well, it'll get better. And so I kept flying, and had a great start, and then things just started going. I was just making the worst decisions, and wasn't flying well, and kept getting caught and stuck and too low, and just kept defending for whatever reason. I'll just keep going. I'll keep going. I even one stage got really tall and was heading back over the lake, and I was on full bar and had my hands through the toggles and reached up to change my goggles and just fully put the wing in a massive spin, which ended up in an auto rotation, lost thousands of feet, straightening it all out. I wasn't there. Anyway, finally gave up at the last turn point because I couldn't imagine being in goal with all the jubilation and being around all these people, and landed. And then just sat for an hour and had a really good cry. And anyway, the point of it is we really do need to know when to stand down. It's important. We shouldn't fly distracted. We got to pick the days, and we can't let things like results or even the desire to be in the air cloud where we are mentally. We make mistakes, and luckily this one had no consequences other than just beating myself up mentally for making the mistake. Okay, on to happier thoughts. This talk is with Martin Scheel. We did it on one of the one of the rainy days. I went and visited him in his split spot in Interlaken that they were using for the comp, and fascinating individual. I've been wanting to interview Martin for years. He's a weather guru. Like I said, he organized and has run the Swiss League since the mid-90s. He has been responsible for their kind of culture of greatness over the years. We talk a little bit about Chrigel, of course, and who he is and his talents, and Stephan Morganthaler, and just what they have been able to accomplish there with the Swiss League. It's something I've always wanted to do. They run the Swiss League every weekend, all spring and summer, and I've created a lot of amazing pilots, and it's a great training program and regimen, and you'll hear about all that in the show. Martin was a world class, one of the best climbers in the world back in the day, and just got into flying, and it took over his life. He's still got a lot of passion for it. He's an amazing photographer. I remember when I first started getting into the sport 20-something years ago, I remember his images. And he was out there flying around with us every day, making cool videos and images of the comp. But a lot of passion, interesting individual, and a fun talk. Enjoy. Martin, what a treasure. Thanks for taking some time out of your very busy day right now, getting ready, well, making this World Cup go. And it's nice to be able to do this in person. Most of the time I do this online. So it's nice to meet you finally after all these years. I've been looking at your photography since I got into this sport, which is more than 20 years ago now. So, but thank you for filling our pages with wonderful images and putting on these competitions and taking the time to say hello.
Yeah, hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We talked a little bit before we started recording about your background, but for the Swiss, of course, and the Germans, they know much about your background, but maybe a lot of the listeners don't know so much. Tell us your history.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I started rock climbing with 13 years. And from then on, my life was climbing, and all parents and teachers hated me.
Because you were more focused on the climbing than school.
Yeah, so you asked me to speak about stories. So,
yes,
okay,
please.
I from this time I have one learning in the apprenticeship. I called them in the morning and said, okay, today I go climbing. And they could not accept this, and after maybe 10 times or more, they tried to fire me. So I did not want that they fire me, because when I start something, I would like to finish it. So it was after 2.5 years of my apprenticeship, and they offered me 1 year holiday, or not holiday, but a break. For me, that was perfect.
Yeah, nice.
So after this 1 year break, I did not call them in the morning to say that I'm going climbing. I called them that I'm sick. And from that moment on, everything was good. So this is one of the learnings in the
world.
In the world, I had to do. To be honest is not always perfect.
Right.
But I think I'm still too honest for a lot of people in the paragliding world. I don't know. If I want something, I push for it. Yeah. So
that sounds like more good stories.
During the apprenticeship, I just had every minute climbing, ice climbing, mountaineering, and everything. I was getting more and more professional. And how many years I had? I was about 28, I think, or something like this. A flight school in Austria was inviting me to do the school there, paragliding school. Before, I always said, paragliding is boring compared with mountaineering and climbing. So after I was more or less professional climber, and after this, I started in Austria flying, and from that moment I just was thinking only for flying.
Really?
So
right away?
More or less, because there was just the first gliders where almost could take thermals, and I was really going into this. And
give me a year. When was this?
Yeah, it must be 88. Maybe.
Okay.
Profile was the glider. The profile from Eldecar came out, and our teacher there was one of the pilots, one of the best pilots, Helmut Walder or something, and he gave me his glider. Yeah.
Cool.
So, his glider. So first flight, first parachutal stall for many 100 meters.
Your first flight?
Yeah, with this glider. So I was going down straight. I have had no idea what's happening, In this time, this was not known as problem. And I started to pull a little bit on different lines. And finally...
Something has to happen.
Yeah, finally it was getting out.
Wow.
That was my first flight with this glider, but maybe I forgot my first flight in general. You like stories? So.
I love stories.
Stories.
Go ahead. More the better.
A friend of me, that was 2 years before I went to Austria to school, a friend of mine was saying, hey, you have to try paragliding. And so we went up to one of our mountains where we climbed a lot, and there was a little hill, but after the hill it was going down. And he said, just take like this stuff, and here below you brake. Okay, easy. But it had thermal, so it was good wind, and I was going above this first hill,
Where you were supposed to land.
Yeah, I did not land, so I was going down and down and down. It was a slope just about at the glide angle of the glider. Yeah. And there were trees coming. Oh, what do? I did not know that I have to pull right to make right turn. So I just tried a little bit. It was like on the parachutal stall story. I just tried what's happening on if I pull on these lines. I was getting around the trees and landed safely somewhere. But
Not quite the way we learn these days.
That was my first flight. And then the first flight was this glider. Yeah, so but you want to know about my career, so
but I mean, back then when that happened, you do a parachute all the ground. Was it just ignorance is bliss? So it didn't really scare you that much because what's happening?
No, I went to Helmut to the teacher, and I told him, hey, what's happening? And then he told me, that could be. I make you the glider a little bit faster. But by then I knew what's happening, and parachutal stall is okay, sort of, if you know what's happening. And that was okay then.
But there wasn't any SIV going on or training, and you probably didn't have a reserve, I would imagine.
No,
right?
No way. We had just this really light harness, and like mountaineering now. I mean,
alpine.
Oh yeah, if I go to alpine climbing with paraglider, I don't have anything like in these times. But what happening then? I as I was professional rock climber, I went to a brand. I could barely fly straight, but I went to the brand and asked, what do you pay if I fly for you? And it was Swing. And Swing was, okay, I pay you 3,000 a year and give you all the material, and say, okay, that's good. But I did not really know paragliding. But I had a good photographer, and we were quite fast
Were you a photographer back then?
No. I learned that afterwards from him.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Robert Bush. You maybe know him.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it was my friend, and we we made many climbs together and working together, everything. So we published, so everything okay with swing. But as I was thinking, maybe the glider could be a little bit better like this and this. But at this time, Andy Hediger and Pierre Remy were the designers of swing.
Yeah.
But they had a financial problem with the boss, so they left and founded Paratech. And then the boss was trying to make a new glider. And we went to the slope for pulling it up, and it flew, but very bad. And I said to him, hey, that glider cannot fly because of that and that. And then he said more or less, yeah, make your own one. So I was going into aerodynamics and thinking a little bit and blah, blah, blah. And finally I have made my first glider. You know, that's all on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, no computer, nothing,
Sure.
thick lines. And
there's no apps to design a glider back then.
So, but the first glider was a really big success. It was the Zenith. And from then, okay, I'm paragliding manufacturer now or constructor.
Did you have background in engineering or?
Yeah. My apprenticeship was electronics, but it's like, if you know engineering, I think you can think from one thing to another. Yeah, and then things were going on. I started to be test pilot as well, and I flew a lot. And then one of my great moments was to win with my own paraglider the first league competition in Switzerland.
What year was that?
It must be 99. I think. 89. 89, yeah.
That's when the league started here in Switzerland?
Yeah, or 90. Probably 90, yeah.
And was this kind of directly from hang gliding? Was this the same guys that were into hang gliding and performing this, or was that a whole new thing?
The league was founded on base of the hang gliding league.
Okay.
So it was more or less the rules and everything was copied.
Yeah.
But we have got own boss. Yves Boss was the first Swiss league chief. And the thing was more or less the same as from hang gliding, but we have got our own big budget and everything. Yeah. So I was flying and was getting better and better. And I did competitions with my own gliders, which was
very cool.
Yeah, it's good.
I love that you barely knew how to fly and you went and got sponsored. With swing. I love that. I just learned how to fly.
Because of publication. I mean,
sure.
For a sponsor, it does not matter if I'm the best or not.
Sure.
So finally, the amount of pictures in the magazines are the payment for the sponsor. So that was working out. Yeah, and then I was... funny is maybe the story about the Minoa. I repeat, there was no computer. So I was building a one-to-one model from not from the entire half of a glider, but of pieces, from maybe a third on the wing tip, maybe a third of the glider, and then in the middle I took another quarter of the glider. I made really a one-to-one model which I filled with air, with a little bit pressure, and like this I could make in German it's called Abwicklung. The whole fabric has really complicated form, and now it's made from the computer, but by that time nobody was able to do it on the computer. So I made a one-to-one model more or less for the Minoa. And the Minoa, maybe you remember, it was basically the first glider with a shark nose. I saw it on the profile what would be better, what would make it better. So I tried to pull the nose in without simulations and something, but I made one without the shark nose and the other one with shark nose, and it flew better with the shark nose. So
Really?
yeah, it did not look really like a shark because our profile was different.
Yeah.
But I was experimenting just by heart.
Wow.
And on the Minoa, there are a lot of other things with techniques like I've put a fabric above the whole thing. I did not make the inner cells dividing from the lines. Every line had a normal rib, but above I had an epsilon of every rib. It was more or less an epsilon. And the room inside of the epsilon I filled with air from the back. So what you normally have, you have a lot of pull on the nose around, on the top sail.
Yeah.
It pulls like an idiot because and now you get from the back, you get minus pressure in. So it's not blown up as the rest of the wing. It is got a little bit minus pressure from the back. So the surface of the Minoa was really flat.
And you're calling it minnow, like a little fish?
No, I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
Minoa.
Minoa, okay.
It was a word.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Ah.
Yeah, and but the glider itself, I mean, it was too much material. It was difficult to take off. It was pretty quickly in a negative spin. And I don't want to say that the glider was perfect, but it was a lot of technology in it, which has been used years after on the computer again.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And
but you got into competitions pretty early. You got into
I started with the first league.
Huh. Yeah. But you won.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. And
but actually, I must say I did not win because I was a good pilot. I did win because I realized after the first turn I made, we had a task of, I don't know, 20 kilometers or something like this, 30 maybe, which was a lot, in this time.
Yeah, sure.
And I did it. I was pretty slow, I was not a good pilot, so I was slow. But I have had the idea to make it a second time, and the conditions were much better. So I just did it a second time, and the second time I was the fastest. That's why I won.
Nice. And have you kept with climbing and mountaineering all the way through? Is that still a passion?
No, that was actually for me a little bit of drama to stop climbing, because I was pretty good.
Yeah.
One of the best in the world. So sort of. And all your being, it's like you get rid of all your safety, of all your friends, of all your...
That's your community, that's your
community,
world.
My world,
your job.
Everything. I was just getting rid of that, and this is quite difficult. So.
But flying was that compelling.
I was just so addicted for flying that I could not climb anymore. I was going to climbing like I have to,
Yeah.
And
a job.
And I was going flying because my heart was pulling me in the air.
Wow.
And that's about.
But it sounds like you transitioned to making that a living quite quickly. You're designing.
I was still doing some of my job climbing, and then I was working for Swing. When I was designer and test pilot, it's horrible what designers, or at least test pilots, do on. But I was living out of that,
And did you have a vision even back then? Where did you see yourself going? Was it just I'm just flying at all costs?
I never have visions.
Wasn't I'm going to be the best in the world at flying.
I just have my heart, and my heart pulls me somewhere. And I never was going, I want to be the best, or I want to achieve that goal or something. I just do what my heart, I'm almost unable to do something against my heart. I think that's from my parents and childhood. I really, if I do something against my heart, I feel like a prisoner, like in a prison.
Where did you grow up?
Even now, when I have some hassles with with the federation where I work for, and if I have to do something which is not really from my wish and my heart, then I'm unable to work. That's or I do. Yeah,
it's
really
against your
difficult.
being. Where did you grow up, Martin?
Yeah, near Zurich.
Near Zurich.
Yeah.
Okay.
And school and apprenticeship was horrible. My father was horrible. But I don't want to go too deep in this, but it's from there. And then 93, Mickey Kobler was the league chef. And he did his job. But I did say, hey, we should have something for the new people, for the young ones. Let's make a junior challenge. That was 93. I made my first course for the young pilots. I mean, I was 33, and the other ones were maybe 23, 25. And in one of these first courses was Morganthaler.
Really?
He flew better than I did, and I remember that because in that period I wanted to be better as my students.
Sure, yeah.
And he flew better, and I was quite okay. That must be a good one, and he still is one of the best.
Yeah.
And Chrigel came, and Abby came. Everybody was in my junior challenge finally, and we still do it now.
You still do it?
Yeah. Not one. I missed not one. Yeah.
Really?
Still a great week. With the young ones. And
I know a little bit about the league, but give us some background there. What is it? Why does it exist?
But first I would like to finish the story.
Yes.
How did I get into paragliding and into the league? Because then 93, I invented more or less the junior challenge. Now it's called newcomer challenge. And 95, our league chief disappeared somehow. Nobody was around, and I was working for Swing. I did not think to make it, but I said, okay, I can do it for a moment. I can organize a little bit. And then I'm getting more and more into the league work, and Swing was sold to Germany, so I did not want to go to Germany. So I said, okay, I stop there and I take the league. That was 95, 96. Yeah. And then since then, I'm the chief of the Swiss League.
Since then?
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite some history.
Yeah, that's a long time. And for the pictures, I realized pretty fast that looking for sponsors, I need pictures. So I went to my old friend, Rebbe, and told him, hey, what do I have to put on the camera for my settings? I did that, and it worked. So I became somehow a sort of photographer.
Yes.
But just...
a very exceptional one.
Yeah, but I think where I'm good is I can fly with one hand in the gaggle.
Yeah. And
because I do this since 30 years, I just fly one hand, and it's not a big difference to two hand. And like this, I learned to make these gaggle shots, which you probably know. That's the thing. And now I make videos in the gaggles, which I really like.
Yeah.
But I'm not a professional photographer. Right?
But you can be in the right spot.
Yeah, I'm in the right spot on the right moment, and I learned a little bit with Flash and all this stuff. And finally, I've made marketing. I studied marketing and communication just for fun, sort of. And I had my own agency for 10 years or more, 15. And but finally, yeah, it's not my heart there, you know. It's to sell things which you don't use or need. It's somehow strange. But to work with the young people on flying and organizing comms, this is after 10 years of marketing, I realized no, that's not the way where I want to go. So I stopped that, and since then I just have this 50% job for the league.
And that job, you were saying before we got going that that's more on the organization side. You're not teaching so much anymore, or you're still doing a lot of teaching?
Yeah, that's the job did change a little bit. When I took the league in '95, I was team leader on the all the World Cups and everything. So I was working a lot with the pilots, and at home the trainings were organized basically by the clubs. So they have made the Swiss Cup and all this, and I have the Swiss League Cups. These are flexible trainings. I was organizing, but it was somehow easier, you know, not as much. We did not have trackers and all that stuff. We just had the cameras, and what I had to organize is a laboratory to develop the films. So we bought.
You mean for taking pictures of the waypoints?
Yeah, for the waypoints.
Yeah,
the pictures, and yeah, we had our own laboratories, a little small black and white. It was not so much work for the organizing the events, but maybe since 10 years, there's more like technology behind and more knowledge. Task setting is getting more and more demanding.
Mm-hmm.
And the organizers, the clubs, they did more and more just go backwards they organized the travel to the takeoff and the grill on the landing, but all the technical thing is more or less at the moment at our duty. So from the team leader and working with the pilots, I've got more and more into the organizer of events. So I lost that a little bit, but now we have Fabrice. We share the job, and Fabrice is working with the people, with the pilots. So that works out very well now. He's a great guy, and yeah, we work together really smooth.
And what is the motivation for, so Chrigel and Morganthaler, when they got into it, was this already, even back then, was this, I'm going to join this because this could be a career, this could be, or they just were crazy passionate about flying and this was the entry into... Why does someone want to become a Swiss national
If you say
pilot?
Morganthaler and Chrigel, they are two different careers. So Morganthaler, I don't know if he agrees, but I think it was for him pretty clear that he will work on his profession because he's how do you call that, engineer, and he has a very good job and everything. So for him, paragliding is hobby.
Yeah.
And I think that was he never was thinking to do paragliding as a profession. I would think so.
Yeah.
Where Chrigel pretty soon started to to be a professional thinking pilot. His parents flew. He started flying as a youngster, and when he came to the newcomer, he was already really pushing, and he was quiet. He's still quiet.
Yeah,
very great person. But I think in his mind was pretty fast. I have to fly. So it's different.
Yeah. Tell me about the objectives of because this is something I think many countries, in America, for example, we have no concept of something like the league. We don't have any training. Everybody does it pretty much on their own. If you want to become a comp pilot, you figure it out on your own. The puzzle is to be put together through your own personal experience, finding mentors and everything, but we don't have anything organized like the French, like the Swiss do. What are the objectives? How is it funded? Give us a little background on the
league. The objective of the league was not. I mean, for sure, we like to win, and in this time we did win everything. Switzerland was the leading country for a long time, but there was not a proper concept or something. We have our sport rule, and but basically I could build the league how I wanted to, and that's probably why I liked it. I could build up everything. The board was always saying yes, nice, and it was working well. I mean, we did win, and people were happy. So
the funding comes from membership or from government, or how?
It came only from membership.
Okay.
Until maybe 10 years ago, the Swiss Olympic. We are not Olympic, but Swiss Olympic is more or less the machine who gives all sports the budget and the rules and everything. And since I'm official Swiss Olympic trainer, we got quite a lot of money from them. So by now we get a lot of money from Swiss Olympic. But we have a lot to do for them. I mean, we do it for the sport, but the rules are partially coming from Swiss Olympic.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, and now with my retirement in 2 years, there will be a big change in the whole system. The board decided that the sport, at the moment, I'm basically directly employed below the board of the Hang Gliding Federation. And the director is not really my boss, we work together, but it's, and I have all freedom and I could develop what I ever want. And with my retirement, the board decided that everything goes straight down. It's a classic vertical hierarchy. And I'm really afraid that the whole system will break together because Fabrice or I or other ones, we are not made for working below a boss and not below two bosses, So, I think it's a big mistake, but I try to help them and say, hey, the psychology of us is different as of skiing.
Sure.
Everybody says, oh, in other sports it is like this and then like this, but in our sport, you start in an age where you end in another sport, where you finish.
Yeah, right.
So in another sport, you get with 5 into a system where you are, you are a child and you do what they tell you. But in our sport, most pilots are above 20 or even older. you cannot tell them what they have to do.
Mm.
You have to make a system that they like to do it. And I'm really afraid about the new system, but we will see. So, that's now it's getting more and more, the whole world getting more and more paper and less work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, for me, it's really difficult to see. Everybody, I mean, you don't make a decision, but you make a working group and you build the working group that it is like for sure that your decision what you want will be worked out from the working group, but you don't take the responsibility for that, And this I see everywhere, and all these rules and papers and safety. I mean, if we speak about safety maybe later, and safety on hang gliding, this is such a difficult topic.
Let's talk about that now, because we were talking about that before the show. It's quite interesting. You've gotten to see the whole span of where it started to where it is now, and we were talking about that it's gotten less and less towards pilot responsibility and making their own decisions, and more towards the organizers. It's more, the task and making sure everything's safe in a not a safe sport. It's not safe. So how do we,
Yeah, I think the world in general demand more and more safety and gives less and less responsibility to the person. I mean, that's on the road or on the bike or on how do you educate your children or everything, I think in US, if you walk into a farm and you break your leg, the farmer can be sued. Yep. I mean, instead that you look on the ground if there's a hole or not, the farmer can be sued. And this stupid system takes more and more the impact to our world. And I mean, I do task setting since 30 years. And I think a lot about safety and what can we do and everything. And I see that more and more responsibility goes from the pilot to the organizer. But I mean, it's really strange, because at one end everything must be absolutely safe. On task setting or takeoff or landing field, everything must be super safe. But people fly harness now with a piece of paper under the back. I mean, the submarine has a small protection which just get the homologation. Everybody flies it without complaining. And you know exactly, if you don't feel straight to your ass, there's no protection at all. And so it's really strange for me. And what makes me afraid is that on task setting and organizing the comps, especially on the task setting, that we get, if all responsibility, more and more responsibility get to the organizer, we cannot fly any more competitions in the Alps or I mean, we have to go to Brazil or flatland everywhere, because in the Alps you always find somewhere a lee side. It's not possible that you have a good day without lee.
You have to fly lee in the Alps. That's how you fly here.
Yeah, but finally, you have a lee side from the valley wind. And I can tell it on the briefing that there's a lee side on the valley breeze. You should not go there, fly high. But finally, the top pilot go there, and the next they are crying level 3. And so it's really difficult to find a balance. And I've made a plenary on the first briefing, and I really hope that we can go a little bit back to pilot's responsibility. It's not possible that all the responsibility, or I mean, theoretically, it's anyway the pilot, but the pressure rises up more and more to the organizer, because we will lose so many good flights. I think about at the Alpen Cup a year ago, we had 4 accidents. 3 of them were in cable, so only 1 were because of the conditions. But it was horrible to have 3 accidents on a 4-day competition, and we have a lot of speaking, and a lot of people was blaming me that I fly in conditions which are not good, and we sorted out then a working group, and the working group, in fast, it was like we have, after the task setting team, we have a supervisor team. They look only for details. Is a cable before or after they don't have to think for the task, they just have to think for the details. And this is very good, because I think Mai and the task setter, they think more in bigger dimensions, where these guys or girl, they just look to the edge of every cylinder. How do you take it? If you come low, what happens? Okay, so that's one thing. We have this supervisor team. And the second thing is that we have more people who is enabled to cancel a task. Because it was often, if we have had a bad, or not a bad, but an organizer in Switzerland with not much knowledge, I was basically the only person who was able to cancel in the task. And now we have at least one safety manager on the ground able to cancel the task, me in the air, and a third person in the air. So that was the outcome. But back to the negative side of this thinking, that the organizer have to set always a super safe task. 2 weeks later, or no, maybe 1 later, we had a great competition together with the Germans in Alpstein. And the Alpstein is it's a great place for flying. The cloud base was amazingly high. I mean, we never have so good conditions there, but we flew only in the foreland. The great task we could have done.
In the big stuff.
No chance to set it just for safety, you know. And so we flew a little bit in the foreland, small task, and that's quite hard. And it's only an example that we lose so much if we get
too locked into that. Yeah.
All pressure on the task setting. And it must be safe for 100 pilots, you know. And in these 100 pilots, you have a wide range. And if you have to make it safe for the last, I say idiot, not in sense of.
No, I'm serious saying the least experienced.
No, not only least experienced. I mean, more in sense of going straight.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 kinds of accidents. We have the one which is not experienced, but I'm not sure if that makes more accidents as the experienced ones who go really for it and always straight and without, you know what I mean?
Without giving themselves any margin.
Yeah,
just following the arrow.
Exactly.
Just going.
I think for both, the task setting must be safe for both of them. And if we do it safe for both of them, we lose so many possibilities in task setting. I mean, as I said, in the Alps, you have always somewhere a lee side. Or in Mexico, I mean, in Valle Valle. I mean, the crazy thermal.
Yeah.
And the Superfinal in Mexico, how every day were people falling down.
Yes.
But, yeah.
That was amazing. I've never seen so many incidents
Yeah,
as that Superfinal.
yeah.
Man, there were so many
So
mid-airs.
everyday incidents, I think 3 or 4 accidents. I mean, even Yael.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm asking myself, why do people go there and they are afraid about the Alps?
Yeah, right.
I mean, the Superfinal before was at Disentis.
Yeah.
And everybody was crying, it's dangerous and crazy and everything. But we had not one incident.
Really?
Not one. Except parachute deployment above landing, but not for... It was by accident.
It was by accident.
Yeah, so we had not one incident. Not one. And then a year later... the Superfinal is at Mexico. A lot of incident, but nobody speaks about.
Do you? This might have to be off the record, but we were talking about we'll edit this so I can say it now. And we'll decide. But my feeling was a lot of in Valle that year for that Superfinal, we had really high pressure, so it was rougher than normal. You know, Valle is known to can be quite
but
rough.
It's always rough.
It's always rough, but it was unusual. I go to Valle every year because it's easy for us in Monarca, so it was unusually. It was a little bit more wind.
Was dry,
and it was dry. I remember there was no clouds, and it was quite sharp. But my theory is okay. That's a little bit, and then Superfinal, and people are aggressive. Fine, but a lot of those pilots were on the sub for the first time.
Yeah.
And the geometry to me of the sub is you've lost a lot of your ability to see here.
Yeah.
And so many of those, in the gaggle, I saw so many mid-airs that were this. Those of you listening, it was the pilot below coming up into the pilot above.
But in Valle always is rough. I mean, the crazy thermal is... I mean, I lost one of our friends there.
Sure.
So... But anyway, I think coming back to the responsibilities, I really think that pilots should be more responsible for what they do. I mean, officially they are anyway, but in competitions, they should not claim always, oh no, there has been a rainy cloud or there has been a lee side and something like this. I mean, if you're too slow, you get into rain. Okay. I mean, if you're too slow, maybe you don't get goal. Okay, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot, if we are forced to avoid every of these dangers, we will lose a lot of really good flying. And I hope this changes a little bit back to more natural.
One of my favorite memories was I believe it was the Superfinal in Colombia in Roldanillo, where there were some really big fires that year, and Chrigel was there, and there was a day that had gotten very, very cloudy, and the lead gaggle was going to be really hit and miss to get the goal. You needed another climb, and there was no climbs to be had, and this monster fire was kicking off, and some went in it.
But it was forbidden anyway.
It was
in the rules. It was written that
no pyro flying or whatever. Yeah, so I remember Luke the next day saying, if I see my friends go in there again, I'm not doing this anymore. He was really upset. But Chrigel went in, and a friend of mine was right there. I mean, it was very defined. The column was incredibly defined, and Chrigel went in and lost the wing and recovered, and Yasin went in really low, and it took him up 2,000 feet above it. The wing just roped up, and it took him 2,000 feet above the top of the cloud. And he went to throw and thought, if I throw, I might land back in the fire. So he just waited until he drifted, and then threw. It was the next day. Maybe we all need to be a little bit more careful with what we do, where we go.
Yeah, it's this self responsibility. I mean, I all life, since 13 years, I make these kind of sports, climbing, then flying, and with 50 years I started with extreme skiing, like steep faces and stuff. And I'm only responsible for myself.
Sure.
There's no way to say, oh, you are guilty on something I do wrong. But at the other end, I have to make task setting for, more and more the people put pressure to the task setters to not to make intelligent tasks, but to make safe tasks. This is a difficult situation.
Back to the Swiss League and your job for all those years developing pilots. Take me through some of that. What are the things that Chrigel comes to you in the 90s and he's young and inspired, and you can recognize that he's got some talent. What do you teach the kids? What does it go? What's the sequence? Is it just being around other good pilots and competing as much as possible?
I think one of the most important things is that your team has some good pilots. That's really, Chrigel grew up when Hofer was winning everything. So, and Hofer grew up when Bollinger was winning, so that was always, we had always these
the
heroes in our team, and then everybody believes that it's good.
Yeah.
And for me, I was team leader, but I never have had enough time to be the coach of single pilots.
Oh, okay.
Because with 50, I was working much more than 50, but officially 50% job, I cannot manage individuals. So I was more the team leader, and the whole education was more just the tactic and just everything around the general. I was working in mental training and everything, but not on single pilots. More on just on the group.
Okay.
And after you have been on 20 comps with the same pilot, you learn how he function and what he needs and everything. So there's a lot of friendship and partnership with them, but not I'm not the coach who says, hey, think about that and why do you do this?
Is that culture of sharing knowledge, is that a Swiss cultural thing? I always think about.
I think that's one of my biggest achievements. I could bring this team into a partner. All of them are friends somehow, and all of them share the knowledge, and we are a family. And I think that one of my strengths, that I don't speak bad about other persons. I rather try to integrate even strange persons. For sure there are 2 or 3 persons which is a bit more difficult, but in the team, when one person was, let's say, speaking too much or whatever, I try to get the atmosphere that everybody is integrated and everybody helps. And that's the truth. If your friend wins, you will be better as if your friend does not win.
Sure. So
everybody who is better as yourself is helping you, and it's not your enemy. It's your help to get better. And I think this spirit has been in our group since beginning, and so we didn't have these fights I heard about at other nations where the pilots are fighting each other. We are one family, and we work together, and we try to build up the league.
And the league, it starts in the spring and it goes all summer. How does it work?
Yeah. I mean, I make the calendar somehow in October, November, so. And I just try to fill up in the spring every second weekend with a training competition, with a Swiss Cup.
And you're totally mobile, yeah? If it's bad in Grindelwald, you'll go over to the Rhone?
Yeah,
you move it around?
I started with these mobile trainings very early because in Switzerland we have a good situation. We can be mobile. We have a good infrastructure, and it is a big stress to decide where we have to go. And it's after the decision I have one day to organize a comp, but it's worse, I think, because nothing worse than you are at one place and that you're 200 kilometers away, it is good. So I learned pretty early to be flexible, to go to the best place where you can. I mean, I'm thinking to go Wednesday somewhere else.
Interesting.
But, yeah.
And then is there, after day one, Fabrice 1, are you all getting together, dissecting the flight, looking at track logs? What did he do? Where were the mistakes made?
We do always debriefings. We do briefings already quite precise and debriefing anyway together with the IGC files. Yeah. No, that's as I said, I have had enough time to do this, briefings, debriefings and courses and everything, but I did not have really time to work with single pilots. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And you said you're retiring in 2 years. I can't imagine. You seem to have too much energy for retiring, but
but the federation does not think so. They want to get rid of me. Yeah.
What then?
I have so many things to do at the moment. I am permanent stress, so maybe I got a little bit less. Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of sports still. I do basically everyday sports like climbing, running, mountaineering, skiing, or something. And I'm sure the World Cup wants me for filming and photos, and
that'd be great.
I mean, I think somehow something will appear.
Yeah.
And to have a little bit more time is not too bad. That's not bad.
Let's spend just a little bit of the time we have left imparting some knowledge for those who are listening, who are maybe getting into comps, or maybe they've done, had a fair bit of experience in comps, and maybe they're very experienced in comps. There are 3 different things here, but what would be some kind of simple advice to each of those levels in terms of, okay, you're starting, here's what you need to be working on. And then down, what are some of the things you've seen? A Morganthaler versus one of your 20-year-old Swiss pilots who's just getting into it.
I don't know. I think there are too many different kinds of psychologists. I cannot say for you if this is good or bad. I mean, important is fun. Important is self-motivation, that you want to focus and achievable goals and all these things. But I mean, that's all blah blah, because if you take Morganthaler and Chrigel again, they are totally different. I mean, you brought these two into the speech. Morganthaler is still somehow a kid. He goes flying for fun, And he tries things, and he blah blah blah. Yeah, let's try this way or that way, and sometimes, I mean, he's a fantastic pilot, but he's not really focused on the result. Where Chrigel is the upside somehow. I'm sure he has a lot of fun, but he's so focused on what he likes to achieve. When you ask me what is the best to get strong, so I always say Chrigel. Look at Chrigel. He is focused. He goes that way, and he does not make compromises for any partner or whatever. So if he wants to win, he buys the best glider, even if he works for others, Yeah. And
it's unrelenting. It's pursuit of excellence.
But everybody's completely different. I mean, I always was, I had a lot of problems with my Leistungsstress. I have a stress to be good. That was blocking me completely. And so that needs complete different treatment as somebody who is too easy. Okay, so I just cannot tell somebody what to do. But one thing, maybe just for safety, fly the glider you really feel that it is the best for you. Don't buy one because it's cheaper or for any other reason. You really think about that. This is the thing where you fly on, you have your life on, you have the performance and everything. Don't make compromise on the glider, and that's the only general thing which is valid for everybody.
I'm going to ask you a question that I hate in advance but I have to, because I get asked it so much myself. But people will say, Chrigel's won 8 times now with the X-Ups, and he's got all this history that a lot of new pilots don't even know. The world champion and acro and everything. I mean, he's kind of annihilated everything he has touched with this discipline and the work ethic that you've talked about, focus. But people always say, what's the one thing? What's the thing that makes him so good? And I always say, it's all of it. It's all the thing. But was there something when he came to you when it was 16? Was there something that's maybe not obvious? Is it just the work ethic? What I'm looking for is how much is talent, how much is just his.
Yeah, it's. I mean, he's in the air since he's 10 or whatever. He's absolute. He feels the air. I think he thinks the air. And combined with this really top focus. I mean, I remember once I was with Chrigel on a photo shooting, and we had no space for taking off, only 2 or 3 meters, and I was going a little bit backwards to pull up the wing, and he told me, "Hey, I tried that a lot. You better stand just with the line straight, and then you pull the glider in." So he trains everything. He trains every possible situation in advance. It's fantastic. I mean, he's so focused on what he likes to achieve. And I have to say it, I mean, he's such a great person, personally. We just have had the newcomer challenge 2 weeks ago here in Grindelwald, and it's so good to work with him and how he works with the young people. But really, I'm really happy to have him in this in this team. Yeah.
What a treasure! Really. Well, he's one of these who I have always found is that's why I asked about the culture of the Swiss, because he is incredibly giving of his knowledge. On the one hand, I think probably he probably wants to give all this knowledge because it wants more competition for himself. You know, he's gotten so elite, especially in the X-Ups, that, you know, I want everybody to be better. But it's also just, he's very generous with his sharing of the...
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's from the league, but maybe it's his person. I mean, he has very nice parents, and you know, his brother Michael, he's so nice as well. So I don't know, but ask himself. I mean, I don't want to speak too much.
No, I've said this to him too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in many ways, for most pilots, he's an enigma. You know, it's very rare to see someone who's at that level.
You know, he is a hero, but you can touch him.
Exactly.
That's great
special.
thing. I mean, if I hear him speaking to a debutant, beginner, he speaks to the beginner in the same way, a little bit like he speaks with his friends, with Morganthaler and everybody.
Sure.
So he's just a great person, and happy to have him on the team.
Yeah, I bet. Martin, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. It was nice to hear some of your stories. Good luck with the Swiss team. Good luck with the comp. We've got some challenging weather here.
Good luck with the weather.
Yeah, good luck with the weather.
Shit, now I've made to make the decision for tomorrow.
Well, I wish you luck with that. We'll all have fun regardless. But thank you, sir. Thank you. If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind-the-scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So, for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do, and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account, and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.